Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat at welcome po sa isa na namang episode ng AGRIKB every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. sa Dream Agritech Consultancy Services page. At ngayon, bago sa Dream Agri Media page na rin, simulcast tayo at sa YouTube natin, Dream Agritech Services. So tonight is a very, very special episode. Nagpahinga kami last week, but we're back with a vengeance tonight. And meron tayong surprise. Meron tayong surprise ngayong gabi. We are announcing our newest co-host dito sa AGRIKB. Pero bago ang lahat, tawagin ko muna yung mga dati ko ng co-host. Ayan. So, unahin na natin si Mr. Jim Cano. Jim, good evening.
Yo, what's up?
Kamusta, bro? Nakapagpahinga tayo ng 1 week, but we're back.
Yes. Magandang comeback after 1 week of rest.
Comeback is real, yes sir.
Comeback is real. We have a new co-host.
Bago tayo mag-start, batiin muna natin yung mga nandito ngayon. Si Gege Gabisay, she's watching. Good evening. Christian Rosales, magandang gabi po. Si Betchay Esportuno, magandang gabi din sa inyong lahat. And guys, huwag kayong mahihiya pala if you have greetings, if you have questions para sa guest natin tonight. And para dun sa bago nating co-host, huwag kayong mahihiya. Just comment it dito sa ating comment section sa Facebook and sa YouTube.
Huwag mahiya magtanong.
Opo, libre po ito. At bago ang lahat, tawagin na natin yung pangatlo pa nating co-host, si Bards Interno. Bards! Wohoy!
Wohoy!
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening sa'yo. Good evening, everyone.
Welcome to AGRIKB.
AGRIKB. So, na-miss mo ba ang AGRIKB last week? Na-miss mo ba?
Na-miss ko yung sarili natin tatlo.
Pero
I missed ourselves.
Okay. Pero tama kayo, comeback is real. Comeback is real. Dahil itong show to brought to us by Ypart and Dream Agritech, mayroong magandang surprise for us. Not one.
Magandang surprise.
Siyempre,
magandang.
Oo, magandang surprise.
So, dahil...
Siyempre number one yung ano...
Anong number one?
Ay, sige bro.
Hindi, ikaw na.
Sinasabi ko lang bro na, yung guest natin, siyempre, pasabog na. Marami tayong
matutunan.
Ay, pasabog talaga.
Yun nga, yung pasabog natin pangalawa ay yung ating bagong makakasama talaga.
Okay, pero bago natin, introduce yung guest natin, introduce na natin yung bago nating co-host. So, who will do the honors of introducing our new co-host? Kumbaga, ad-lib na lang tayo. So, dahil Bards, ilalaglag ka na namin kasi ikaw talaga nag-recruit sa kanya. So, ikaw na rin ang mag-introduce. Bakit, sa palagay mo, bakit mo siya napili bilang ating bagong co-host? Anong meron sa kanya na sa tingin mo Hindi, mag-ano kami. Susuporta kami sa iyo. Huwag kang mag-alala. Take the ball. Let's go.
Siyempre, dahil alam ko na magiging maganda lalo yung takbo ng ating programa.
Maganda
for the rest of the show. Sana, siyempre, pagdating niya sa atin, starting today, maging maganda talaga. At siyempre ito, siguro, hindi ko to sinabing parang clue eh. Nakita ninyo siya dito isang beses. At dahil doon, edi siyempre, ewan ko lang, marami namang nag-request. Hindi. Alam natin na talagang it's kumbaga, destined. Gano'n na lang na makasama natin.
I think maganda rin siya kasi sa usaping development, no? Sustainable development, agriculture development. Parte dyan ang gender diversity, no? So, ito magandang addition to balance out also, to offset our
sabi nga nung guest natin nung ating technical rehearsals, napaka-telegenic nung ating bagong host. Pambalanse sa atin na hindi telegenic.
Hindi gaano. Hindi gaano.
Not that much. Kumbaga, siya yung magdadala sa atin across the threshold. Kumbaga, okay na tayo pag nandito na siya. Siya magdadala ng team natin.
Alright.
Alright. So without further ado,
Okay.
we introduce to you our newest co-host dito si AGRIKB. Tulad nga nasabi ni Bards, dati niyo na siya nakita dito as guest. And now she will be part of the AGRIKB family. Let's welcome si Miss Hazel Reyes. Good evening, ma'am! Woo!
Hello po! Good evening po sa inyong lahat.
Ay, tumaas na agad yung views. Nakita ko, parang biglang nag-spike.
Nakakatuwa yung introduction ni Sir Justin. Nadalang
Oo nga, may pahat pa si Justin.
Opo, it is such an honor po being part of the young at mga gorgeous looking din naman po and syempre inspiring.
Nako.
Wala akong bariya.
Wala
akong bariya.
My honor po being part of this.
Okay na, host ka na. Okay na, huwag mo na kayong bulahin.
Okay na, Hazel.
Okay na, okay na.
Wala po akong bariya.
Wala kaming barya. And dahil dyan, dahil ikaw ang pinakabago naming co-host, ibibigay namin sa iyo ang honor and privilege of introducing our guest for tonight. So, ready ka na ba? Agree ka naman, di ba? Kaya...
Agree ka ba?
Ikaw na.
Agree. So, parang initiation lang po ata to eh.
Yes.
So, ano ba? Gusto po ba natin?
Game.
For tonight? Okay po.
Alright.
So, for this very special episode, syempre, first kong mag-host with that being AgriTech group po. And now, our guest for this night's episode is a member and chair of the Agricultural Sciences Division of the National Academy of Science and Technology in the Philippines. He grew up as a rice farmer, but started a decades-long career in scientific agriculture when he was awarded a full scholarship at the UP College of Agriculture. So talagang full scholar po ang ating guest for tonight. And he took up animal nutrition. Subsequently, he did graduate studies in plant physiology and breeding. His career spanned working as a researcher and teacher for the Academe, both po sa UPLB and UP Mindanao. Also, he worked at the private industry in the East-West Seeds Company, in the government, specifically at PhilRice, and internationally po at the International Potato Center. At present po, our guest is an active advocate of a food system that nurtures the health of the consumer and of course the environmental health, adapts to climate change, and respectful of traditional food habits. He leads a multi-sectoral team in preparing a foresight for feeding Metro Manila in 2050. So, let us all welcome our honorable guest for this night, Dr. Eufemio Rasco Jr.
Yay! Hello, sir. Good evening po.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, nakamute po kayo. Doc, nakamute po kayo. Yeah. All right.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you. I actually feel a little bit out of place here. You're very young people. And I'm not so young. But
hindi naman gaano kahalata, sir.
Lahat naman kayo ay mukhang masasaya ngayong gabi, in spite of the fact that all of us must be at home, trying to keep ourselves comfortable in spite of the threat of this COVID. And the participants, I can imagine, they're also at home, and I'm looking forward to very lively and informative interaction with everyone.
Yes, sir. Of course, we are happy because you accepted our invitation po, and right off the bat, we want to thank you for because you will be sharing your career and your life story dito po sa AGRIKB. So, wag na tayo magpatumpik-tumpik pa. Let's get on right with it. And Bards, ikaw na, mauna magtanong kay sir.
Let's get it started.
Let's get it on.
First question, sir. First question agad. Sir, ready na ba kayo?
Sir, I born ready.
Okay, sir. Siyempre, doon muna tayo, sir, mag-start sa pinakasimula ng journey ninyo. Like what we ask others din na mga guests namin. So, before po ba, ano po ang impression ninyo on agriculture?
Well, I have to tell you where I came from. It's my hometown is Camarines Norte, and I grew up in a town called Vinsons. If you are familiar with the name Vinsons, we have Vinsons Hall in the university.
In Diliman.
In Diliman, yes.
Our town is also called Vinsons because Wenceslao Vinsons actually was born there. And for a while before World War II, he served as a representative, congressman of Camarines Norte. And he is well known as a student leader in UP Diliman during his student days. So I'm very proud to come from the place of heroes. Always look up to him as my role model. Well, Camarines Norte, I should tell you a little bit about it. It's a coastal province, and Vinsons is right on the coast, facing the Pacific Ocean. It's mainly an agricultural community. Our family had a small rice field and also a coconut field. Well, some of the members of our family are fishermen, so I have experienced all of this, being a coconut farmer, rice farmer, and to some extent fishing. My impression of farming, it's actually mixed. It's hard work. You can imagine, I was not quite grown up yet. I was perhaps about 10 years old when I started working in the farm. First by trying to help in transplanting, and later on I was involved in practically all the steps in rice production. And well, of course, coconut is easy. All you have to do is harvest. But fishing, that's quite a challenge, because my first cousin who lived with us used dynamite for fishing. So, well, I know. At that time I didn't know. I know now.
That time, yeah.
And,
yes.
I'm now trying to remember those times when he was actually preparing dynamite at home, and I was watching. Now I imagine if one of those dynamites exploded, and I won't be here with you.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
So it's hard work. It's dangerous, and there is not much money. So as a young man, I did not have any dreams of becoming a farmer.
Oh.
So
sir, anong target nyo dati?
Well, I had thought of studying to become a medical doctor. I thought that's the best contribution I can give to society. Well, my town did not have a full-time doctor.
Oh, yeah. Health worker, yeah.
So I thought it would be
doctor to the barrio.
Someone to study to become a doctor.
Same po siguro sa amin nung time namin ni Sir Rinco na hindi po talaga mo agad maiisip na mag-venture ka into agriculture. Even po sa part ni Doc na napunta siya sa academe, kami naman sa government, and you guys dito po sa private sector. So even sa lahat po pala halos ng sector, yung farming hindi talaga ganun ka-persuasive, nakaka-persuade sa atin na po siya, no? Tama po ba? Tama po ba, Doc?
Sa simula siguro, parang ganun ng consensus natin ano sa mga naging guest na rin natin. Parang hindi nila yun nga tulad ni Doc hindi niya he didn't dream or he didn't parang aim to be in the industry. Yun nga sabi niya he wanted to be a doctor. Pero Doc, paano kayo how did you end up in agriculture?
In agriculture.
In UPLB.
Well, I guess it's a stroke of luck. When I was in high school, I write a lot. I was editor-in-chief of the school paper. And so there was that opportunity to test my writing skill. I jumped into it. The opportunity was offered by a national essay contest that was sponsored by industry association called the Chamber of Agriculture and Natural Resources of the Philippines. That doesn't exist now. But at that time, it was the umbrella organization for all agricultural industries, including rice and corn, rubber, everything. They cover everything. And they help their members obtain loans and they lobby with the government for favorable policies. So one of the initiatives they had at that time, we're talking here about 1966. I don't know how old you were at that time.
Wala pa po. Nasa...
Or maybe your parents were not even born yet.
Feeling ko po toddler pa yung mama ko nun. Pero sige.
Anyway, at that time, in 1966, this association headed by the sugar baron of Negros, Monteliban.
Monteliban.
Yes.
His name, Mr. Monteliban, Alfredo Monteliban. The contest was, to write an essay about rice. And the title was Self-Sufficient in Rice and Philippine Progress. Well, there were more than 100 contestants in that contest from 39 countries, and I was lucky to get the first prize.
Wow.
The award was a full scholarship for 4 years in the UP College of Agriculture.
Oh, wow.
So it was very
Okay.
tempting. I forgot everything else. I forgot my dream of becoming a doctor. In the first place, I'm not sure if we have enough money to support this medical education. So I said to myself, better na you have a bird in hand rather than a bird in the bush.
Yes.
Right? You remember that expression?
Yes. A bird in hand is worth more than bird in the bush.
Yeah, right. So that's exactly my guide. And so that started my career. I should tell you about that essay because it's very relevant still today.
Yes. Yes, sir.
The main message was actually this controversy. My subject was this controversy between food security and self-sufficiency. At that time, the main, the big names in politics were Macapagal, who was the incumbent president before Marcos, and of course Marcos. When I won the contest, Marcos just won the election. But during the election, the big issue was rice. Of course, it's always an issue. Rice.
Yeah.
Macapagal was for food security, and his promise was low prices. Well, the implication is that he's going to import from Burma and Siam, Thailand. At that time, they were already supplying us with cheap rice. And so the thinking was, if we import rice, then the prices of commercial rice here will go down, and it will be good for the consumers. Marcos was the exact opposite. he said, no, I don't want to import. I like to help our local farmers. We will support them so that they can produce enough rice for everyone. He didn't say anything about rice prices. He talked about self-sufficiency. And my essay was actually supportive of Marcos' position. So perhaps that was one reason why I won. Because the newly minted president was supposed to be the guest speaker during the awarding ceremony was, favored that position of rice sufficiency. Would you like to hear how much rice was how much rice was selling at the time?
Sige, sir.
Sige po, sir.
Well, I also sold rice. We were growing rice, but at the same time, we were selling rice. So I knew exactly what the price of rice was. We measured rice in terms of volume, not in weight. Ewan ko kung inabot nyo na yun, yung ganta, di ba? Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, sir. Pero hindi na siya yung unit of measurement.
Which is equivalent to about 2.5 kilos yung weight ng rice. But we didn't sell rice by the kilo. Well, roughly, it's about 60 centavos per kilo at that time.
60 centavos. Anong mabibili?
Wow.
Like, sa dry po.
That's yung bigas yun, hindi yung parang.
Milled na.
Milled.
Yeah, rice.
60 cents.
So, sir, for context po, ang 60 cents at that time, what could you spend that on? If it wasn't for rice.
Let me give you some figures. Yung pamasahe sa jeep, 10 centavos.
Okay.
Went to UPLB, if you take LTB at the time, that's the only bus from College, Los Baños to Manila, it was 80 centavos. My allowance then was 130 pesos a month.
Wow! So medyo malaki yan, sir.
Money, you know what, I can save. I go to Manila during weekend with 20 pesos in my pocket. So I go there with my brother. Mag-good time kami, manood ng sine, kumain sa restaurant. I was paying for all of this with my 20 pesos. Pagbalik ko, dala-dalang sapatos at saka pantalon.
Uy, may shopping pa sa 20
may shopping
pesos.
Pa. Yun yung mga tamang talaga na hanggang saan aabot ang 20 pesos mo.
Dati madami.
Makarating ka sa Manila. Makapag-date ka siguro kung meron ka date. But that's
grabe, 20.
Kind of situation we were in.
Yeah.
Sir, I was just listening to your story, so that was over 50 years ago. And the question is still very, very much
remains
relevant and very much still a question up to today.
It's an old debate.
Yeah.
Grabe,
so the question has actually stayed the same pretty much. And then here we come na medyo bata, younger po in terms of experience, but then we're coming into the same scenario and still facing the same question.
What's your answer, Jim?
Ayun, nabaliktad. The tables have turned. How have the turn?
I will write an essay po, sir, and then I'll submit to you.
Baka manalo ka ng scholarship naman for a PhD.
Well,
actually, sir,
exam questions, Jim, when I give exam questions, I always limit the answer to 27 words.
27 words.
So please write an essay, 27 words long.
Okay.
Parang haiku ang dating.
And then there's a science in it, by the way.
Wait, there's a science, sir, sa 27 words?
Sa 27 words. Okay. With 27 words, you can talk about 3 main ideas. Okay? And each of them would
9 words
require
each.
3 by 3 or 9 words. So 3 main ideas, 27 words. Try it. Practically any question or any topic you can, explain in 27 words.
So, sa mga
I will try that.
viewers,
Ayan, try
i-practice
natin
niyo
yan.
yan. Itetest natin.
Tetest natin yan. Tetest natin yan.
Ipa-comment niyo po, Sir Dax, Sir Jim, sa ano natin.
27, mayroon ba magka-comment dyan ng 27 words?
27 words.
Pwede.
Pero yun nga, sir.
Challenging yan,
The question still remains after half a century. Literally, the question is still, the questions you were asking back then hanggang ngayon is still a question. So, in that span of time, what are the biggest changes that you have seen in Philippine agriculture? Siguro, sir. Not maybe general changes that you have seen in terms of how Philippine agriculture was back then and it is now.
Well, basically, the level of industrialization has really grown. When I was in Vinsons, we grew rice. We were the ones who dried rice, and a rice mill is just 2 blocks away. So, kami yung nagmi-mill, kami yung nagda-dry. We do everything. And kami rin yung nagbebenta. So, when we sell rice, lahat ng value added actually pumupunta sa amin. Unlike now na ang farmer will grow rice and then at harvest time, nandiyan na yung trader. Kaabang na.
Ready na.
Yung trader na ang magtutuyo ng palay, siya na rin yung mag-mill at siya na yung magbebenta. So, yung lahat ng difference between farm gate at saka retail ay pumupunta sa industry in a way.
Sa trader.
That's what we call the industrial way of agriculture. And that's happening practically in all major crops. Sa coconut, well, of course, at the time, yung coconut industrialized na. We produce copra, and then meron ng mga Chinese traders. Well, mga Chinese, they've been around longer than many of us in the Philippines. And they were buying our copra. They were everywhere. They were buying our copra.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty industrialized. Yung coconut was already industrialized at the time. And I suppose that copra ends up in the US or wherever we export copra. So that's a big change. Now it's more industrialized. Before, it was not so. And I thought the farmers then were better off than today.
Yung dati po, mas okay maging farm. Parang kumbaga, mas okay maging farmer noon.
Yeah, because the value from farming at saka yung selling, trading, ay pumupunta sa farmer.
Yeah. Hindi siya naka-spread out sa supply chain or sa value
supply
chain.
And value chain.
Na medyo nasa-specialize siya sa ibang tao.
Right. Very short yung supply chain. Binebenta namin yung rice namin right within the community. Unlike today na if you are a grower in Central Luzon, siguro yung rice mo ay baka makarating sa sa Mindanao or wherever, depending on supply and demand. So it travels.
Mas mobile na ang products ngayon as compared to before.
That's partly because transportation is also improved.
Also improved,
if you travel from our town to Manila, it takes about 16 hours. And if you are not lucky, pagka maraming ulan, the roads become muddy. So yung sasakyan namin, yung mga bus na babalahaw, and we may have to spend 1 or 2 days on the road.
1 or 2 days on the road.
Waiting for the rains to stop and the road to become less muddy.
Wow.
Daig pang transcontinental flight, sir. May layover kayo, technically.
Exactly, may layover
Sa
Within
bundok.
the Philippines.
mountain road yun eh. From Manila, you pass through Manila South Road. That's essentially
Yes.
mountain road. Very narrow.
So,
Mm.
sir, siguro that's... Sige, Jimmy, ka muna.
Okay,
Nakapagtanong na
I
ako eh.
mean, taking off from that trajectory of the discussion, sir, no, na you wrote this essay at that time in the 60s that somehow opened up a door for you to enter into UPLB, and then we're saying that in the same way, ganun pa rin ang sitwasyon ngayon. How do we could you tell us also maybe a bit of your journey or the backstory as to how you found your way into Phil Rice? I know that you were the former executive director of Phil Rice, sir. Maybe also your journey towards that, no? Because that position or role also somehow allowed you to expound and act on the essay maybe that you wrote back in the 60s, sir.
Well, I don't know how to describe it. I think one word that describes it is destiny, because I started as a rice farmer and I ended my career uh, in government working on rice.
Mm.
Well, how it all started, uh, well, I applied for that position twice. The first one, I did not get it. But the second time, I did not actually apply. I, had, I had quit, you know, expecting that I can be a director of Phil Rice. But then something happened. At that time, I was working on neglected crops at UP Mindanao in the city. This was in 2010. And my research basically was trying to develop these neglected crops into something that can be useful to Filipinos. And my favorite crop then was nipa.
Yes. Yes.
Why is it my favorite? Because I grew up beside nipa plantation in the wild. No one plants nipa; it just grows everywhere in our town. And my objective then in research was to try and develop nipa as a source of biofuel. So I was looking for money to support that research. And of course, my target source of fund was the Department of Agriculture. At that time, the secretary was my brother in the fraternity. So I tried to organize a meeting with him. My objective really was to ask for money for NIPA.
Funds.
But then when we were talking, he said, "Oh, that research is too small for you. Why don't you work on rice?" And I said, "Well, I have no interest in rice now. I applied before for directorship of field rice, but I'm now happy with what I'm doing with NIPA, and I like to spend the rest of my life developing this orphan crop." Well, to make a long story short, he said, "Okay, I'll give you money for NIPA, but you have to accept my offer to work as director of field rice." So that's how I ended up. So when I got to field rice, of course, I wanted to continue research on NIPA. And, well, actually they are complementary because in many rice fields, well, you imagine we live in an archipelago. There's a lot of areas that are suitable for nipa. And wherever you find nipa, you also find rice. So I thought, okay, they are complementary. Uh, for rice production, you need machines, and machines need fuel. So if you can make your own fuel, then that will be good for the farmer. So we initiated some work on nipa as fuel at field rice. It's rather odd because, well, the field rice people, I don't think they were happy with it in the beginning because it's like expanding our area of interest. But then we were able to develop some technologies that proved to be useful, like distillation machine equipment that can make 95% alcohol from nipa sap, and that's fuel grade alcohol. By the way, it may interest you that setup, the distillation equipment, together with a machine that produces electricity, it has to come together. You need electricity to generate heat that is needed for distillation of the nipa sap, fermented nipa sap, to produce alcohol. So they come together, the distilling apparatus as well as the generator that uses rice hull. So it's, you're using waste in rice production and producing fuel that can be used for rice production. That machine, by the way, won first prize. The Alfredo S. Yao award. It's an industry award that is given to inventors, to those machines that are well, useful to society. Phil Rice got it about 5 years ago, I think. I remember correctly. I was already retired when they got it.
Sir, before, Doc, mag-butt-in lang po ako. Kasi before po, nung nagwo-work pa po ako sa Department of Agriculture sa Region 4A, madalas po nagtitraining po kami sa Phil Rice. Not sure lang po ako if during that time ay kayo na po yung director around 2014 to 2015. If,
yeah, I retired in 2015, so at that time I was director.
So siguro, Doc, nag-abot pa po tayo. So I stayed there. Ilang beses po akong nag-training po sa Phil Rice kasi po ang hawak ko pong research noon ay sa rice. Yung pong Next Gen and Pre-Sem, yan pong RCM, Next Gen, Pre-Sem, yan po. Nag-training po ako doon. Then, with regards po dun sa mga systems po natin sa rice, so very nga po yung sa inyo. Natuwa nga po ako nung nag-introduce ako sa inyo na ang naging parang major study niyo po ay rice, tapos nadagdag pa po yung nipa. Yung po sinasabi nyo kanina ng mga machineries, ano pong specific na makinarya? Kasi di ba, I'm an agriculture engineer po sa LB and meron po tayo dong Amtech. Nandun din po yung ating fabricator po doon, yung ating pagawaan. Na-fabricate po ba natin doon at napagawan po ng license para i-manufacture?
Okay, that's one of my frustrations. I mean, with research in general, I'm not really specific on Phil Rice. Marami tayong na-produce ng ganyan na technology, pero hindi na ma-mass-produce, especially machines. When I got to Phil Rice, I saw many prototypes, and they're all very useful. Pero wala tayong capability for mass production. Ang ginagawa natin, puk-puk-puk-puk, no? Yung you know what I mean, Hazel? You're an engineer. Ano nga bang tawag doon? Backyard, yung parang gumagawa ng tricycle at jeep, gano'n. Style
backyard natin. Fabrication.
Every piece of equipment is different from the next piece. Kasi nga, it's produced, no? And it's very difficult to maintain kasi wala ka namang mabibiling parts. You have to fabricate the parts kung masira. So, yun, it's my frustration. I hope that we can do something about that kasi especially now, ang trust ng government is mechanization. Kung lahat ng machine ay import natin, paano pag nasira yun, wala tayong capability for production of spare parts,
Yes.
and so on. So, mas maganda siguro kung yung locally developed na machines ang i-mass produce natin at yun ang i-distribute sa farmers.
Yes.
Yeah.
True po, sir.
Yeah,
Kasi
yeah.
madagdag ko lang po kay Doc, kasi nga po nanggaling po ako from the national level to the local government unit. So, pag po may dumadating po sa amin na mga machineries, mostly po talaga ay internationally
Imported.
Fabricated. Ano po? So, pagdating po siya sa atin, talaga pong nahihirapan kami na i-adapt at the grassroots level. Kasi, syempre, iba naman po yung settings ng agriculture sa ibang bansa compared dito po sa atin, lalo na po in terms of area. Kasi pag po sa ibang bansa, talagang malalaki po yung area nila. So, yung pong specification ng machineries, talaga pong pang malaki kasi to maximize po yung use ng makinarya. But then again, pagdating po dito, hindi siya po nagiging usable kasi maliliit na po yung mga parsela ng ating lupa. So, parang ano po natin siya gagamitin? Doon po nasasayang. So, sana nga po, Doc, mangyari nga po yung, siguro, hindi nyo lang po frustration ko po, frustration po naming lahat. Magkakaroon po tayo ng locally made na machineries na talaga pong suitable sa pangangailangan ng mga farmers. Ano po?
Yeah.
Meron tayong maliliit na machinery, but yung imported din, yung mga hand tractors, no? Ang locally manufactured ay yung mga implements. Yun nga, pag nasira ay mahirap i-repair. Unlike kung mass produce na pag may naputol dyan, all you have to do is buy
the replacement part.
Yes.
Yeah,
replacement part.
Nakakahinayang naman yung sir, yung mga kwento nyo na maraming prototype. Actually, there are many good ideas pala, no? From our researchers and scientists na it just doesn't come to life or doesn't come to, yun nga, it doesn't get to the hands of the supposed users.
Sir,
well, may isa pa akong kwento in relation to that. This time when I was working with the Asian Potato Research and Development, which is a program of the International Potato Center. At that time, my job was kind of technology transfer. And what I do is I travel to all the 8 countries that we cover and then look for technologies, whether it's machines or varieties of potato, sweet potato, or biocontrol agents. I look for this among the national program specialists, and then I find a way to make this available to everyone to share. So the idea is sharing of technology. So one of these was it looks like a plow, but the way it was explained to me by the Visayas State College of Agriculture, which developed the implement, it's designed for harvesting of kamote. You know, Vizca at that time was into kamote research. So one of the things that they produced was a harvester. It's supposed to be a Carabao, drone sweet potato harvester. I actually saw it in the Vizca Museum, and I don't know, for some reason it's not being used. But I thought it might be useful, so I actually produced several copies of it. And with the permission of Vizca, I brought these copies to several countries within Asia. One of these was Thailand. Well, the Thais are very quick when it comes to adapting technology. Um, I in 2 years from the time I brought the prototype to them, they
mass
actually
produced.
improved it in 2 years. Hindi na Carabao drone nang makita ko
Oh,
after
my.
2 years. Naka-attach na sa hand tractor. So they modified it so that it can be used with a hand tractor. That's number one. Number two, I was told that 80% of the farmers were already using it in 2 years.
Wow.
80.
80%.
In 2 years' time, sir.
Okay. And well, I saw it with my own eyes in 2 years. I saw it with my own eyes because I traveled around Thailand was with our local partners to check on what they're doing. Sa Philippines,
Sige, sir.
type pa rin after 2 years.
Nasa museum.
Sa museum.
Nasa museum.
Naka-display.
Well, until now, I don't think it was used at all. So, I think
man.
yung problema natin, medyo magbagal tayong technology.
Sir, I think
So,
just a
if
question
ever
to jump on that discussion, sir. No? Sir, maybe sorry to cut you off, sir, but I wanted to ask maybe is it also a lack of creating an enabling environment for better public-private partnerships to mass produce these prototypes? Kasi normally kasi ang konsepto din po ng mga or at least the underlying culture is kung may produkto ang government, ibibigay ng government for free, yun. Pero it's not a very sustainable model, no? And so, is it a lack also of creating that public-private partnership environment na yung mga gantong prototype natin sana ay pwede sanang ma-mass produce so that we can reach more people? Is that
Or
something that
commercial
Thailand
scale,
is... or commercial scale. Is that what Thailand also did to reach 80%?
Oh yeah, they have a bank there that is very active in supporting farmers. The interest rates were much lower than ours at the time. It was relatively easy to get a loan. And they also tied this up with fabricators. Marami silang fabricators ng implements. Of course, we were ahead. Yung fabrication ng implements, actually, that was initiated by our engineering department at UP College of Agriculture in the 1960s, 70s. And also the International Rice Research Institute produced a lot of these prototypes, which eventually were licensed to local fabricators. So for a while, we had very active ag machinery industry around Los Baños. Pero ngayon parang nawala na eh. Now we are importing practically everything.
So totoo pala yung chismis, sir, na our neighbors really did learn from us. Kasi parang nung bago po ako sa university, sir, parang yun yung laging byline or yun yung lagi kong naririnig noon way back in 2006, 2007 na parang yung mga neighbors natin, lalo na sa ASEAN, specifically the Thais and the Vietnamese. Parang they learned, they studied here, they sent their students here, and then they learned here, and now they're leaders, specifically in rice production. And ayun, sir, parang medyo nako-confirm nung kwento nyo na you brought the you brought a sample or you brought the one displayed in the museum, and they literally brought it to life doon sa kanilang mga fields.
May kasunod pa actually yan eh. I should tell you about it. Makita ko
meron pa. Oh my goodness.
Improve nila yung harvest. Nagpagawa ko ng kopya sa Thailand, dinala ko sa Pilipinas.
Okay.
Ewan ko kung ano na nangyari. The last time I saw it was when I left someone. Never saw it again.
Natatawa na lang ako, pero actually, I'm sad.
Ganito na lang yung expression ko.
Yan po talaga yung sad reality ng mechanization po natin. Di ba nga po yung nung masteral po ako, ang naging thesis ko po kasi yung pagkakameron ng agricultural engineering sa lahat po ng local government unit, Doc. Kasi po, as per the AFMEC law, it requires na lahat ng munisipalidad, even the cities, magkameron po ng agricultural engineering, given na yung focus nga po natin is laging for food sufficiency and food sustainability. So, dapat merong pong partners yung mga agricultural offices na mechanization. Kaya kailangan po talaga na may ag-eng. And dun sa studies ko po, base po dun sa ginawa kong thesis, talagang wala pa po talagang office or munisipalidad na meron pong existing na operational agricultural engineering division. Kaya medyo hirap din po tayo dun sa paggagawa ng designs na locally and based sa grassroots level na pwede po sana natin
adaptable
ihain sa regional or national level para po mas partner po or mas swak dun po sa pangangailangan sa lower level. So, problem po talaga siya ngayon, yung mechanization.
Actually, Ma'am Hazel, nakita ko din yan nung, when I was previously working with the Land Bank Foundation. We were going to multiple sites in the Philippines, ano? And ang na-observe ko noon, pag pupunta kami sa Mau, meron kaming nakikitang mga hand tractors, maybe 2 or 3. Relatively bago pa siya, pero nakatambak siya. So parang tinatanong ko, bakit po siya nandun? I mean, hindi naman siya yung kinakalawang, but may kita mong matagal na siyang hindi nagagamit. So parang ang laging sagot, kasi merong nasirang part diyan na hindi na namin nabili or hindi na namin kumbaga na-update or napagawa siya. Tapos kasi mahirap din umorder ng parts. Syempre, the process of ordering the parts and then importing it. Tapos, yun nga din, parang nung turn over din nila daw sa farmers, parang there seems to be a lack of training din on how to properly use it. So, parang, parang twofold yung parang na-amplify lalo yung problema. Una, prone siya masira kasi hindi well-versed yung farmer on how to use it. Tapos hindi pa siya, yun nga, the machine is not fit to our context. And then yun nga, tulad nga ng sabi ni Sir, yung mga parts natin, we don't manufacture it. So, ayun, parang that's
another side to the coin of that, Dax, is also in some parts of Cebu, and hindi na natin pangalanan kung ano administrasyon din, na may mga kubota na tractor na mamalaki, no? Tapos ang town very hilly, no? Walang flat land at all. So
rolling.
Bakit may kubota na pang flatland yung itsura pero nasa bundok na town, no? So yung mga context and all that medyo nakaka-frustrate din. Okay, so anyway, I think it's a lot of things to see, no, that yung experience ni Sir Dong in seeing the development, the progress of even rice and even kamote, the different sectors, the different crops of our Philippine agriculture, we're still facing the same challenges somehow today. Somehow, no? And I think part of addressing that is creating a shared vision of what would be the next direction of our country in terms of feeding the country. So I think, Sir Dong, I think this is also, would this be a good time for you also to share with us the food systems foresighting that NAST is working on? Is this a good time to share that, or it's still under development po?
Well, it's still under development, but I gladly share it with you. Baka sakaling makatulong kayo by way of improving on our ideas. Well, of course, this has been in the works for, I would say, 8-9 months now. And you are part of it, Jim. So,
Ay, opo. Pero for the benefit of Dax, Hazel, and Bards, and our viewers.
What we're trying to achieve here is formulate a vision. Yung, ano ba sa Tagalog ang vision? Pangitain or I don't know the exact
word.
Tagalog translation of vision. But it's something that you imagine the future will be. And we are trying to imagine a future that is 30 years from now, 2050. What's going to happen to our food system by 2050? Well, the challenge was given to us by the Secretary of DOST, Secretary de la Peña. Sabi niya, sige, gumawa kayo ng vision document and we'll find a way to support and implement it. So we started this process by consulting different sectors. Nakasama nga ang part doon, 13 other organizations. So we had a total of 15 organizations involved here. That includes the academic, farmer organizations, NGOs, the Coalition for Agricultural Modernization of the Philippines, which you are a member, is also very much part of it. The idea is that we're not into agriculture in general. Agriculture is such a big field. It covers food, feed, shelter, clothing, ornamentals. It covers a lot of crops, livestock. But in our view, masyado namang ambitious kung gumawa tayo ng vision for all of agriculture. So we try to focus on that part of agriculture which has the biggest influence not only on society, nutrition and health, but also on the farmers and also the environment. So medyo ambitious yung ating goal, to try and satisfy yung sometimes conflicting yung needs ng farmers saka consumers. Siyempre gusto ng consumer mura ang pagkain. Yung namang farmer gusto niya mataas niya ibenta. So sometimes these are conflicting. So and you haven't mentioned the environment. To produce the highest yield, you sometimes have to apply a lot of fertilizers and pesticides, and the environment suffers. So we tried to imagine a formula that will take all of this into account. And so that means that we have to focus on what we call the food system, okay? And this isn't only about production. The food system, in our view, covers all the steps from production to the dining table. That includes trading, processing, retailing, and of course, also waste management. So we call the entire thing the food system. So the product of this exercise is a vision which we call the food system for 2050. But we also focus on area-wise, at least at this point of the world, we are focusing on Metro Manila because Metro Manila is the biggest market, and we imagine that if we can solve the food system problems of Metro Manila, then we can solve the food system issues for the whole country. Now, yung starting point, of course, medyo problema yon because we are dealing here with a complex system na maraming components. Where do we put the handle? Saan tayo mag-uumpisa? Do we start with production? Do we start with processing? Or do we start with consumption? Now, strategically, we thought that we should start with consumption. We should We should convince our consumers to eat the right kind of food. Okay. What this means is that they will be eating more plants, less animals, more fish. Fortunately, at about the time we started this work, a report was released by an international commission based in Europe. They recommended what they called planetary health diet. Now, this is a formula for satisfying two objectives: nutrition and health on one hand, and environment on the other. Meaning that they come up with a guide for selecting food that will take into consideration the need of consumers for nutritious and health-giving food on one hand, and also address environmental issues on the other hand. As you know, agriculture and the subsequent steps in the food system can generate a lot of waste and use a lot of resources. So if you're not very careful, you can end up, you know, with problems like pollution and resource depletion. So by coming up with what they call the planetary health diet, then we can reduce pollution, we can reduce resource depletion, we can address the nutritional as well as health needs of consumers, all at the same time. Unlike yung traditional dietary recommendations na ang focus lang is nutrition. But here, we are looking at nutrition and health as well as environment. So it's really, something new and something that we can adapt and recommend to our local consumers. And in so doing, kung i-adapt nila yan, of course, they will be healthy, they will be well-nourished, but at the same time, because they will be eating a diversity of foodstuff, then the farmers will also benefit because mataas ang requirement nito dun sa vegetables, fruits, as well as root and tuber crops. Na pag ito yung na-produce ng farmer, mas malaki ang kita niya kaysa rice lamang, or corn lamang, or coconut lamang. In short, the approach is i-diversify mo yung diet using the planetary health diet as, a guide. And by so doing, you also diversify the farm. Kasi syempre, pag may
it's
demand,
market-driven production.
Yan, ina-advocate natin.
we call it data and values-driven food selection. Why data? Because, we'll have to base it on some objective parameters. We can start with genomic data. Meron na ngayong software that can tell you, by submitting your genomic information, that can tell you what to eat and what not to eat, so that your health and nutrition can be optimized. So this is one project that we would like to start immediately. Yung pag-develop nitong software that can be used by consumers as a guide in making food choices. We call it data and values-driven food choice. Yung data, ito yung genomic data. Pwede mong ipasok yung environmental impact data. If you choose, say, rice or kamote over rice, pareho silang source ng carbohydrate, ano ang magiging environmental impact? So you would tend to recommend a crop or a livestock that will have a lower impact on
environmental impact. Wow, that's
lower carbon
exciting.
carbon footprint. Very exciting.
Yeah, carbon footprint. plus yung farmer welfare. Ano yung components ng iyong diet na pag nilagay mo ron sa iyong dish ay will give the farmer the best deal. Well, siyempre, kung mas profitable sa farmer yung iyong napili, then the farmer will also benefit. So, iyon yung mga data. And of course, it will be guided by values like, caring for the environment, caring for the farmers. Kaya sinasabi namin, data and values.
And values driven. Nice.
So, nasa stage tayo na we're trying to organize a team. Fortunately, yung Secretary de Eufemio is very supportive. And of course,
I volunteer as tribute.
Exciting.
Yeah, we are forming a team that can develop this software na pwede mong ilagay sa iyong phone na
Sir, may company.
Papasok sa iyo yung recommendation.
May message daw po kayo ni Jim.
May company akong alam, sir, na pwede dyan.
May message kayo ni Jim.
I will message you after po.
Actually, what we have in mind at this point, actually hindi pa na-finalize. Set two choices. One is ipagawa ito on a contract basis sa isang research team. But I'm more in favor of the second approach. To put up a bounty, say a few million pesos, and give it as a prize to whoever will develop the best software for these smartphones.
Nakatip na naman tayo.
Nakatip naman tayo.
Nakatip na naman tayo.
Sir, mukhang maganda yung second option na yan, sir.
Gabi-gabi na lang.
Baka ma-museum po yung sir pag first option baka ma-museum na lang. Joke lang.
Baka ma-park.
Number one, competitive. Diba?
Opo.
Yes, competition improves
mas mababa ang cost noon. All you have to do is put up the prize money and bahala na yung sasali na gumasto sa kanilang R&D.
Actually.
Sa'yo yung product. And then, siyempre, you have to pay for the board of that. Yes.
Medyo, sir, kinilig yung tenga ko nung narinig ko yung, yung data-driven agriculture. Kasi, sir, for the longest time, actually, kami ni Jim, we have been discussing, how data will play a role in agricultural systems, like, in production, to solve overproduction and wastage, to solve logistical problems, intertown or interprovincial. Lalo na, sir, yun nga, pagka na-determine natin kung ano yung nutritional needs pala ng tao vis-a-vis yung environmental impact, it will help, yung production system, it will streamline it to a point na parang, ito yung demand, so produce this much. So para hindi tayo sobra or yung kumbaga hindi masyado magiging problem yung overproduction. And sir, grabe, nakaka-excite yung data and value.
Sinagsadya ko talagang bigyan din ng platform si Sir Dong, no? Kasi alam ko madaming magandang idea si Sir Dong. And I think that's also why, deserve yung nasa National Academy of Science and Technology si Sir Dong. Maybe we can dive into that, sir, na yung pagiging nasa NAS niya po, your journey towards being in NAS. Maybe you could share a little bit more on for our viewers and also for us, sir, yung journey niyo to being part of NAS.
Okay. Yung NAS, I wonder if our participants are aware of this. NAS is the National Academy of Science and Technology. It was organized sometime in 1975, and it's kind of independent of the government, although in terms of budget, it is supported by the government. But its activities are not influenced directly by government. So we are, NAST is attached to the Department of Science and Technology for budgetary purposes and for administrative purposes, but our activities are practically independent. So ano yung activities na yun? The main activity is advisory. So it is in this context that we are developing this vision for 2050 for the food system. So the document that we come up with can be used by different government agencies. As you can imagine, itong food system concern the Department of Science and Technology, of course, in technologies like softwares would be a concern of DOST. Hindi lang Department of Agriculture, but also it will involve Department of Trade and Industry, local governments, Department of Environment, Department of Energy. So it's really the whole society that is involved here. So our main job is to provide advice to society in general, but through the executive department, the cabinet, and the legislative branch. So it's high-level advice, and ito yung context. That's why we are producing documents like this. Secondly, yung mga recognition. We like to encourage researchers, scientists to engage, continuously engage in productive research by giving them recognition. Kaya itong narinig nyo siguro yung mga awards like Outstanding Young Scientist. Ang nagbibigay ng recognition na yan is yung National Academy of Sciences. And there are specific awards for environment, young engineers, etc.
Young engineer.
Two main objectives. There's a third one which is linking up with other academies of science, but this is relatively minor compared to the first two, which is advisory and recognition. Now, maybe our participants are eager to know how to be a member of NAST. Do you apply for it? Ano yung qualification? Well, first, you don't apply for it.
Selection.
You are drafted.
Wow.
Draft. Parang invitation.
By invitation. Yung mga members will scout for possible members, and then they encourage them to submit yung kanila biodata, and this is scrutinized at different levels. No? First, at our division, 6 ang division ng NAS. No? Agriculture is just one of them. Merong division sa chemistry, biology, social sciences, engineering, health. Ito, may kanya-kanyang division yan. But to be a member, first, you have to pass the scrutiny of the division that sponsored your membership application. Second, it has to go through what we call the Executive Council. Yung Executive Council is composed of heads of the different divisions. So I'm a member of that council, being the chair of the Agricultural Sciences Division. Pag nakalusot ka na ron, then you have to be submitted for election by the plenary. Lahat na ng members. I don't remember exactly how many members we now have. I think it's about 70. But to be elected, you have to have 50% plus 1 vote
Majority.
of all the members. So ang problema niyan, halimbawa, ang field mo yung agriculture, hindi ka kilala ng nasa health sciences, hindi ka kilala ng nasa social sciences, baka hindi ka iboto. So what this means really is, as a scientist, you need to have visibility, must have established a name na pag narinig ng kahit doctor or engineer or biologist,
alam nila.
Alam nila.
So, wala namang masyadong formal qualification eh. Of course, you have to have a good standing professionally, whatever that means, no? And
Whatever.
Merong, you know, hindi naman ganon ka, very specific yung, sasabihin mo, kailangan meron kang 100 papers. No, it's not like that. Because the quality also matters. We also consider that in fields like agriculture, bago ka makapublish, makalimang taon. Samantalang kung tumingala ka lamang, meron ka ng paper. Mathematics. But it's not.
Shout out to math.
Intellectual input. Sa plant breeding, lalo na kung assignment mo ay coconut breeding, bago mag-flower yung iyong coconut, 5 taon.
5 taon.
Yes, ang tagal. Ang tagal.
Yes, kung ba yung progeny, another 5 years bago mo
Yes. So, 1 dekada na agad.
Kung hihingan ka ng 100 papers, walang kakapagsak ng coconut breeder. Like that, we consider yung nature ng kanilang trabaho. That's all. Kaya hindi masyadong rigid. Sabihin, kailangan 100 papers na, ISI publication. Kailangan meron kang na-invento na patented na widely utilized. So, yun yung mga tinitingnan. How, yung impact ng research as well as yung technology na develop. So, it's a small group, and because of the nature of the standards, usually matatanda. The average age now is, I think, lampas na 70. The youngest is maybe 47, and the oldest is past 90. So, on the average, the age.
Baka kailangan din ng flatten the curve advocacy, sir.
The age curve.
The age curve. But it's true. No? You have a mixture of young and not so young people. So you get ideas from all kinds of people. In that group.
Could it be possible, sir, na yun nga po, sabi nyo nga po, there are a lot of members of NAS na are up there in age. And yung lowest age is, that's parang mid-career na po yun, going towards a higher position na. Could there be a possibility na parang magkaroon ng parang mentorship program or parang, yun nga po, since you used the word draft, parang magkakaroon po ng minor league muna. Parang a sub-league of potential NAS draftees na parang it's gonna be an environment that can maybe you can mentor them or train them, eventually working their way up to the NAS level.
Meron nga yung outstanding young scientists.
Okay.
We recognize, nag-umpisa yun na 10 outstanding young scientists until we realize na it's not always that we get 10 people who qualify. Kuminsan sobra, minsan kulang. So hindi na namin tinawag outstanding young scientists. So sinabi na lang na outstanding young scientists. So sometimes we get 5, sometimes we get 12. Hindi rigid na kailangan maging 10. So every year we recognize outstanding young scientists, and eventually many of them become academicians. Not all. Kasi yung iba naman, hindi naman nag-stay sa science. Maybe they were recognized as outstanding young scientists but they were 35. But at some point, nagbago sila ng career. Hindi na nag-stay sa science. So, hindi sila magiging academician. Kaya nagiging academician, yun talaga nag-stick sa research, sa scientific work.
Oh. Okay. So, ang dami na naming natanong ni Jim. Baka si Bards or baka si Hazel. Ma'am, sir? Bards, kamusta ba yung internet mo dyan?
Yun na nga eh. Lumalaban ng sobra. Pero,
Okay,
paano ba?
sige.
Tinatry kong parang ang recall ko or na naririnig ko ay you're still parang talking about Sir Dong's life in NAS, tama?
Yes.
Tama ba? Baka kasi maulit yung question ko because of the internet. Pero sige, I'll listen a bit muna, then pag may question ako, I will butt in.
Okay. Just make sure to butt in, walang problema. Si Ma'am Hazel, baka meron kang question for our guest.
Kasi po nung narinig ko po yung steps or requirements into entering NAS, natanong niyo na po, Sir Dax, yung kung pwede nga po ba na bigyan ng platform yung mga medyo younger generation. Tapos nung nabanggit nga ni Sir na through Young Scientist Award, medyo siguro given na talagang malaki yung expectation sa mga members and council ng NAS, we should level up din dun sa Young Scientist Awardee. So, baka Sir Dong, meron po ditong makapasok.
Ma'am Hazel, nahiya pa eh. Ginanon tayo, pero ganun yun.
Ni Doc, medyo malayo-layo pa po. Marami-raming palay pa po ang kakainin. Ano po?
Ang cut-off pala, sir, is below 40, young scientist.
Young scientist.
Okay.
If
wala namang age requirement.
If mapupus yung program ni Doc, hindi na lang palay ang kakainin natin ngayon. It should be a mix. It should be a healthy mix of diversified na tayo. Yes.
Yung na-harvest na nating kamote, yung gamit yung plow, no? Modern plow. Modern harvester ng kamote.
Actually, I think
Thailand.
Since you are into production, I think most of our participants are into production. Kung masusunod yung Planetary Health Diet and the entire Philippine population is convinced to switch to it mula sa ating typical na kanin at ulam ay magiging planetary health diet, mababago yung landscape ng agriculture.
Yes.
Calculation, to be able to satisfy yung requirement ng planetary health diet, kailangan yung production natin ng grain legumes. Kasi yun ang main component ng planetary health diet. Main protein source is plants. No? So, ano ba yung plant sources ng ating protein? The munggo, di ba? Peanut, ano pa?
Yes.
Cowpea. Okay, while soybeans, here, there are some areas na suitable for it. We need to increase our production of this by a factor of 34.
Times 34.
So, mababago talaga 34 times, no? Para masatisfy yung requirement. Sa vegetables naman, we have to increase it by a factor of 14. But on the other hand, yung iba naman mababawasan. Like rice, mabawasan ng 36%. So siguro yung areas na required ng legumes at saka vegetables, pupunta yan doon sa rice fields, maybe during the dry season, which is good for the farmer because these are more profitable to grow.
It builds back the nitrogen,
Right. Exactly. And it's also good for the environment, as what you said. So, mabago talaga yung buong landscape ng agriculture. But it's very challenging. That's why dun sa document na we are preparing, we are giving ourselves 30 years to do this. Ang pinakamahirap actually is yung convincing people to eat differently. Kasi napakalaki ng effect ng advertising. If you ask any young person today, ano ang pagkain, siguro ang unang sasabihin sa iyo yung mga fast food. Because
Burger.
they grew up with fast food.
Yeah.
But this is different. We are talking about more diverse plate.
Ayun, sir, I think,
Well,
no,
if you
very...
like to
Go
have
ahead,
a
sir.
short life, that would be a thing to do.
Fast food for a fast life.
Sir, I think, ano po, Jim, since you're, sir, since we are within the team of Sir Rasco, I think we should closely coordinate also kasi, di ba, our, well, aside from Dream Agri Media, Dream Agritech's business is farm planning. So, I think we should incorporate the program that you guys are building towards our farm plans. Kasi usually, our clients ask, what should we plant? What should we grow? And then the plan is not a short-term plan. This is when we plan out a farm, when we build a farm plan for our clients, we do it in phases. They're short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So I think we should incorporate the Planetary Health Program and then everything that you guys are working on onto these plans that we develop for our clients to future-proof them in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Kasi to prepare,
Pwede siya maging blueprint.
to prepare their farms for the eventuality that if we migrate to these types of diet, kumbaga, yung farms ng mga clients natin will be ready to adapt the new systems that will be in place. Ayun, grabe. So, hindi lang yung audience natin yung nakatip, pati tayo nakatip. Nakatip tayo ngayong gabi. Because of sir. Bards, ready ka na ba? Meron ka na bang
Burning question
in mind? Yeah. Before we go.
Yes, with the last, kung mga nag-resonate sa akin na term is yung future proofing. Siguro parang to cut off na rin the discussion. So since parang siyempre gusto rin po natin i-secure yung future natin with this concept, siyempre planetary health and all. And to the future leaders then like us, or the young people, siyempre part din siya ng future proofing. So with your experience po in the Academy, in Philrise, in NAS, so ano po yung mga pwede namin kumbaga bitbitin, mga takeaways from your experience na makatulong to future-proof the future of food systems, of agriculture. Ayun po.
Any parting shots, sir, or nuggets of wisdom that we can...
Oh, well, parting shot, maybe I should address this to all young people who are listening, those who have some inclination to farm. The message is all of you are needed today. If you look at the typical average farmer, it's very old, 58. Malapit na maging senior yan. Certainly, you don't like very old people producing your food. Kawawa naman yung matatanda. We need younger people to engage in farming. Secondly, yung average farmer has only 2 years of high school education. Now, I'm not underestimating his capability, but based on my experience with farming and agriculture in general, especially scientific agriculture, it's something that requires a lot of knowledge. You need to know the plant first. You need to know the soil. Soil is a very complex material.
Yes.
Kaya nga sa soil science, merong soil physics, merong soil microbiology, soil chemistry. Because it's the whole of plant life, in fact, the whole of life on this planet depends on that soil.
On the soil.
Very thin layer of the Earth's crust on which practically all depends. And if you need to be a good farmer, you have to know the soil, not only the plant. But in addition, you have to know climate. Ano ba yung patterns ng rainfall, and how do you program your planting so that you get the best combination of rainfall and temperature. So you have to be an expert in climate. But in addition, you need to be a good engineer kasi gagamit ka ng machinery, mag-irrigate ka ng crops. So you have to manage water, you have to manage energy. So there's so much talent required na sayang naman kung high school lamang ang gagawa niya. Kasi certainly you need much better preparation for successful farming. So since I imagine yung ating audience, educated audience, maaring yung iba nagpa-farming ngayon, yung iba nagplano pa lang ng farming. So my message is, you're needed, please, stay in course. Sabi nga nila, hold the line down. And be the next generation of farmers. We need a new generation of farmers.
Kinikilabutan ako doon. Medyo kinilabutan talaga ako doon. Sir, medyo tumindig yung balahibo ko mula sa braso ko hanggang dito, sir. So, thank you for that parting shot, ano. And before we go, sir, this is something na wala po doon sa script or doon sa flow na pinadala namin sa inyo. But this is a little game po that we give to our guests. Basically, it's called, sir, 1, 2, 3. So we have sentences po that we will give to you, and you can complete it with 1, 2, and 3 words. So medyo mapapractice, sir, yung 27 words natin. Pero 1, 2, 3 lang. 1, 2, 3 lang.
Mas sa 27.
1, 2, or 3, yan ang answer.
1, 2, 3 lang. 1 word, 2 words, or 3 words. Complete the sentence with 1 word, 2 words, or 3 words. Okay.
1, 2, or 3.
Apo. So ito po yung unang sentence, sir. Complete it with 1 word. Agriculture is blank.
Hard work.
Hard work. Okay. So, sir, care to briefly expound on why you chose that word?
In 27 words po.
In 27 words.
Well, I have experienced it, so I can only tell you based on my experience.
Okay, sir. So, second sentence is, ang paborito kong gulay at prutas ay blank. So, 2 words. Maybe 1 gulay, 1 prutas.
Sa prutas ay marang. Sa gulay ay kalabasa.
Marang at kalabasa. Okay. Alright. So, wait lang. Nasa yung last one ko? Okay. Last one. Ang susunod na agricultural products na magbo-boom ay blank. So, tatlo, sir. Munggo.
Munggo.
Tatlo, sir. Tatlo.
Munggo, kamote, at saka kalabasa.
Okay, so that's part of the,
Kasama na yan sa Planetary Health Diet.
Planetary Health Diet.
Or aspirational rather than a prediction.
Okay lang yun, sir.
Yes.
Okay lang yun, sir. And, ayun po, before we end our show, meron po kaming tradition dito sa shows namin sa Dream Agritech, which we give our guests, our hosts as well, time to greet anybody or everybody na gusto nilang batiin. But before we head on to you, sir, unahin na po muna natin yung bago nating co-host na si Ma'am Hazel. Siya na po ang unang babate. Ma'am Hazel, pakitaan mo nga si sir kung paano bumate. Sige, ma'am, go ahead. Bati na po kayo.
So, thank you po sa lahat po ng nanood for tonight's episode, sa akin pong pamilya, sa akin pong mga kaibigan, mga kakasama ko sa Masteral, sa MPA class po namin, PCL, PAM, sa taga UPLB, UP Sages, UPLB Sandayaw, sa JICA Ohana family, nakasama ko sa Okinawa, and sa lahat po ng mga farmers and friends ko na nakisama po dito sa first ever hosting activity ko po with Dream Agritech. So, thank you po. Thank you po.
Woo! Congrats. Bards, nandito ka pa ba? Bards, nandito ka pa ba? Bards, come back, Bards. Okay, bago si Bards, Jim, ikaw na muna.
Okay. Alright, so thank you una-una sa lahat to our viewers for tuning in. Yung family ko, yung girlfriend, yung fiancé ko.
Sana all po, sana all.
Ayusin mo. Cambia.
Alright. So, for supporting this show, thank you also to Sir Dong Rasco for accepting this invitation. I actually knew or got to I met Sir Dong rather nung panahong assist din ako as a research assistant for NIPA related research with my former boss, si Craig Jamieson. So shout out to Craig for introducing me to Sir Dong, and eventually we got to know better with Sir Dong through camp. No? So thank you, Sir Dong, for accepting this invitation to our show.
Okay, ayun. Bards, comeback is real?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Sir Dong, thank you for allowing us to talk with you. Ngayon lang, siguro, re-review ko yung itong mismong stream kasi marami matututunan, medyo nagdalag lang. Again, thank you. And welcome again, Ms. Hazel. Salamat po sa pagpayag. Sana magtagal pa ang ating pagsasama dito sa
Yes.
We need balance, we need diversity, and
we need telegenic personalities.
we need engineers.
Yes. Perfect yun. And also,
engineer the views.
to my family, interno and Dayapan. And yung interno po pala, sir, taga dito. Jose Panganiban, Cam Norte po kami. Hindi ko po napasok kanina. Opo. And then, to MC and Tita Eva in Quezon City. At sa lahat po ng regular na nanonood, maraming salamat po. Yan, thank you.
Ayan. Alright, so bago ako ang guest na po natin, si Sir Dong. Sir, go ahead po with your greetings.
Pleasure to be part of this activity. This is an admirable activity of Dream Tech, Dream Agritech.
Yes, sir.
EPARD. Well, we should encourage more young people like you to be active advocates in scientific farming. This is something that we need today. Siguro alam niyo naman how far behind we are with regards to agriculture compared to our neighbors. Mukhang this is a challenge that we should address. So I'd like to, sabi mo, pwede kong batiin yung aking mga kakilala.
Yes, sir.
Batiin ko kung meron man akong naging estudyante na hindi pa nagsasawa sa aking lecture, salamat. But I will ask you to summarize everything that I said in 27 words and email it to me by 10 o'clock today. Yung malate tanggapin. Batiin ko rin yung mga nakasama ko sa PhilRise. It's a wonderful group, very competent, very active, highly committed group of people. And from UP Mindanao, marami akong nakasama ron. I spent 14 years of my life in Davao, very memorable. And of course, UP Los Baños, Institute of Plant Breeding and the Horticulture Department. Wala na yata Horticulture Department ngayon, but it's now Institute of Crop Science.
Apo, iCrops na.
iCrops po.
Now, binabati ko yung lahat ng mga professors and students in those academic institutions. I hope that we will support this group of young people in their advocacy for more young people to go into farming.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And on my end naman po, I would just like to thank you, Sir Dong Rasco, for accepting our invitation and also for sharing your story, no? And ever since nung binanggit nyo yung essay nyo about rice and food security and self-sufficiency, there has been this one quote na I've been waiting to say, but eto, ngayon ko lang sasabihin yun. Those who doesn't study their history are doomed to repeat it. And I believe that with the wealth of knowledge that people like Sir Dong has, I think it would be prudent or it would be wise to hear their stories and to hear their insights about the industry and society at large. So thank you, sir, for sharing sharing your life and sharing your story here. I would also like to shout out, since nabanggit ni sir yung horticulture kanina and I'm a horticulture graduate. Banggitin ko na rin yung mga mentors ko doon, mga professors ko doon dati. Batiin ko na. First time ko silang babatiin ngayon dito sa show. Si Dr. Leon Namuco, my advisor. Si Dr. Chito Protasio. Si Dr. Rene Espino. Si Sir Bong Salazar. And hindi siya horty, but si Ma'am Eldes Guerra. These are some of the professors na they left a mark in my career. And yun lang. Shout out sa inyo lahat. And I would like to shout out, may papara sa shout out kasi he once worked in Santa Elena, Camarines Norte, sir. Nabanggit nyo kasi kanina na taga Camarines Norte kayo. He once worked there in a prawn farm. And dun sa prawn farm na yon, actually, dun yun na-experience kung paano talaga yung aquaculture. And so yan, shout out daw sa kanyang mga co-aquaculturists dun. Si Mr. Eli Talusa and Bimbo Doria. I would also like to greet my parents. Happy anniversary. So,
happy anniversary!
Happy anniversary po!
Ayun. So,
happy anniversary, Tito Joseph, Tita Carol.
Yung Camarines Norte na yon is a very significant place for them. So, so nataon naman na si Sir pala is from that area. And nabanggit niya si Vinsons kanina, no? There was a play staged in UP Diliman called Bintao. It was about the life of Wenceslao Vinson. So I think sana may video nun that it could be we could watch. You know. So thank you so much, Ma'am Hazel. Congratulations and thank you for joining us. Next week, meron pa next week.
Thank you po, Doc.
Bards, can we just give a quick sino ba yung guest natin next week? Meron na ba?
For next week yung aso. Abangan nyo na lang.
Abangan na lang.
Surprise daw.
Ang Monday natin.
On Monday, yung Monday na lang, yung Monday.
On Monday.
So,
for yung aso pa din. The Agri 2020 would be Dr. Jessica from
Jessica Ray.
Jessica Ray from UP Diliman to discuss about the DOST Project Spice. So if you're into smart agriculture, this is the perfect show for you. So register na.
Smart indoor agriculture.
Smart indoor agriculture to be exact. So register now to our link. Yun ba yan? www.dreamagritech.com/agri-2020-August. Yun.
Ay, sa ulado niya. Wait, pakita natin. Pakita na. Meron ba akong copy na?
Meron naman pala pwede ipakita eh.
Wala pala. Sige, tama lang. Buti na lang bilanggit mo.
Tama.
www.dreamagritech.com/agri-2020-August.
Agri-2020-August. Okay. So, in behalf of Dr. Dong Rasco, in behalf of Ma'am Hazel Reyes, in behalf of Bards Interno, and in behalf of Jim Cano, ako po si Dakila Alfindo. Jim, bago tayo magtapos,
Kita-kits next Wednesday at sabay-sabay natin sagutin ang tanong, Agri ka ba?
Agri ka ba? Bye-bye. Thank you po.
Thank you po. Kasi dapat gagawin ka na din.
Amazing. Ready ka na that next time. Agri ka ba?
Sir Dong.